So today we have the pleasure of speaking with Rob Goyette. And Rob, let's jump right in. Could you introduce yourself and share something about the amazing work that you're doing and how you see that contributing to creating heaven on earth? And let's just do this fairly briefly, and then we'll go back and look at your story of how you came to be doing this work.
Sure. Thank you, Nori. I'm really glad to be here. So, my name is Rob Goyette, and I essentially serve coaches with their marketing. So life coaches, business coaches, relationship coaches, health coaches. That's my audience, and those are the people that I serve. And the way that I feel like I'm really making a difference is by empowering coaches with their marketing. It helps them attract and really serve more clients in all areas of their lives. I've been in the coaching industry since about 2007. And so I've been here for quite a while and feel like, I've made a big difference, and I'm excited to keep making a difference.
Well, I've heard you referred to as the coach's coach.
Sure, that makes sense. Certainly in the areas of marketing. There are many, many areas where we could all use some coaching. My strength is in the marketing side.
That's lovely. So could we go back and look at some of your early backgrounds to your family, how you grew up, where you grew up, what kinds of influences you had in your life that led you kind of in this general direction? And then I'll probably ask some questions along the way.
Sure. So I was born in Houston, Texas, and my father was a doctor in the military at the time, so we moved around a little bit. But I grew up childhood in near Chicago, Illinois, and later childhood in Missouri, in central Missouri. So kind of out in the heartland, I think they call it. And because my dad is a doctor, growing up, I thought, I want to be a doctor too. But as I started heading down that path to medical school, I realized this was not pleasurable to me. This was not my life's purpose or a way to create heaven on earth. I almost passed out several times after watching some surgeries, and I'm colorblind, so I can't even spot a rash. So I had no business being a doctor. So once I realized that, I was still in college at the time, and really didn't know what to do with my direction. So I got a business degree. I figured, okay, if I understand business, I can probably get a good job, start a family, take care of my family. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I got a business degree. And toward the end of college, I started listening to a lot of self-help programs and leaders, people like Tony Robbins. And a lot of good stuff really went into my head. And and I think eventually directed me to where I am now.
Was there a defining moment, perhaps, in this where all of a sudden or one or two stories where you realized, oh my God, this is something that really interests me?
Yeah. So, I mean, for coaching in general, it took me a while to find my way to coaching. I did notice as the internet was becoming more popular, and as people were using search engines. This was before Google. I noticed that people could type things in, and I was asking myself, what makes those search results show up the way that they do? How come this company is showing up when I'm looking for something and another company doesn't? And so I kind of started digging into that and got really interested in marketing on the internet, and kind of did it as a hobby. I was sort of in technology. I was teaching computer software to adults. I really enjoy helping people understand things that they might perceive to be difficult, making them simple. And so eventually I worked my way sort of into some technology roles. But as I was doing that, sort of on the side, I was figuring out all of this internet stuff. And along the way, I met Christian Michelson. Now, he's a well-known leader in the coaching space. And I actually got to know him and connect with him before he became as well known as he is now. So we were friends before his business really took off. And I started telling him about some of the marketing things that I was discovering. And over time, eventually I joined his marketing team, or his team, to help him with his marketing. And because he serves coaches and really understands the coaching industry, by helping him market, I had to understand the coaching industry. And as I did, I fell in love with coaches. I was like, wow, these are heart-centered people that really want to make a difference in the world, really want to help people. Over in the internet marketing side, things sometimes are a little more cutthroat and shady and things like that. But in the coaching world, people, they just wanted to help people. And I loved that. And so I stayed on Christian's team for about 7 years, helping him with his marketing and helping some of his partners with their marketing. And then in 2014, I thought, maybe it would be a good idea for me to grow my own list of coaches and create my own products and programs to serve them. And so that's what I've been doing since 2014.
Was there a defining moment there where you came to that decision?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if there was a defining moment. At one point, Christian and I, we were looking at my role on his team, and his marketing had taken off by then, and he didn't need me as much. And so with his blessing, actually, I went out and started helping a lot of his partners with their coaching as well, which introduced me even more to coaching and to some of the leaders and some of the solutions out there. And I think it was Gina Gabellini. She's also a leader in the coaching space. And I went through, I was helping her market one of her courses, and it was so attractive to me what was in that course that I actually paid for it. She said, Rob, you don't have to pay for it. You're my coach. I won't charge you. And I said, nah, I want to pay for it so that I value it. And at the time, I didn't have the money to pay it. I put it on a credit card, but I went through the course, and that was the course that really helped me launch my business.
What was in it that helped you make that great leap? Because that's quite a recommendation of that particular course of Gina's.
Yeah. She's more in the mindset area than the sort of left brain business strategy area that I'm in. And so I think just seeing that mindset and that approach of have fun with what you do, enjoy what you do, and the results will come. that was something kind of new to me. And so I went through her course and saw it through maybe a different set of eyes or set of glasses, and got to see that side of things. And it got me really excited about building my own business.
Well, I would think because it would bring in the fun of it, making it more fun and engaging. And then I think that's really what's going to attract people into doing this new, shall we say, game, what I call the best game on earth for creating heaven on earth, because I really think we have everything we need. And I would like to ask you, from your own experience, what advice do you have for how people can find and fulfill their life's purpose?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm really glad you sent me these questions ahead of time because it gave me a chance to think about that. That's right. I think, a really good needle or barometer or measuring thing to consider is when you're thinking about what gives you your life's purpose or how you'd like to spend your time even, is what gives you energy versus what sort of takes away or even sucks out your energy. And so if you start thinking about things and you notice your energy levels going up when you're talking about this or when you're thinking about this, that's probably a good sign that you're in the right ballpark. And taking a walk and just letting thoughts roll around in your head, or maybe it's different for everybody, but I try to notice when my energy goes significantly higher or significantly lower. Exactly. It's like, okay, that's kind of my own internal GPS system saying, hey, maybe this is something you want to pay attention to, or maybe this is something that you want to pay attention to as in avoid it. And so, I'd say sort of just being aware of your energy as it goes up and down might be a really good step or part of the process to discovering your life's purpose.
I find that exactly the same for me. If I feel ecstatic about something, it's like something to definitely explore and keep exploring. It's a wonderful barometer, isn't it?
Yes.
So right now, in terms of your own coaching, have you noticed something that has really ignited you recently, say, that has been a big vector for you in terms of moving forward in a new way in your own coaching?
Sure. Well, as far as just evaluating how it's going right now, as of today, I do get a lot of feedback and success stories, and we in marketing we call them testimonials. But I do hear from a lot of coaches about how my marketing, business advice, strategy coaching, how it's really helped them get more clients, which does two things. Number one, it helps them serve more people, but it also helps them sustain their business. We can go broke just trying to help everyone and not bringing any income in, right? We can't do that for very long. It's like driving a car without putting gasoline in the car or charging it at the energy station. So knowing that I'm helping coaches put money in their bank accounts so that they can keep the lights on and reach out and serve more people, really feels good. And then when I hear the stories about how they're helping their clients, that also makes me feel really good. Yeah. As far as where things are headed, I don't know. I kind of look at life as an adventure, almost like a movie or a book or a game where, we're here to experience things. And so I try to pay attention and notice what gives me more energy or what maybe takes away some of the energy. And so I'm really happy with the way things are right now, but I'm also open to new and exciting things coming into my life.
Wonderful. Well, a disclaimer here. I'm one of your new students. I'm just starting your program. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do this for, a couple of years. I've followed your work for 5 or 6 years at least. And I've been very impressed with various people mentioning you. Well, Rob Goyette really made a big difference for me, for some of the major players in the coach space. So I just want to thank you for our upcoming collaboration, and I'm very excited about working together. So, Rob, in addition to your own work, what else do you think we need to do to create heaven on earth?
Yeah, so I jotted some notes down so that I'd be ready for that question. Now, let me just see what I wrote here. I think I've sort of covered some of it already, but the whole thing about life being a game or a movie, and that, like, at least my own beliefs are that we're here to experience living. And I think one important thing is we could call it the theory of relativity, but I don't mean it like Einstein meant it. What I mean is that, like, if we were happy all the time, we would never really appreciate that happiness, because we wouldn't know the opposite of happiness. We wouldn't know sadness, or we wouldn't really know up if we never knew down. And so in those moments where life seems difficult or painful or tragic, I've just noticed that we, at least and I think a lot of people, really appreciate the good times if we have the bad times to compare it to, if there's contrast. And so that's just something I really noticed, is we live in a relative world. If everybody was good and nobody was evil, or if everything was fun and nothing was boring, then that fun stuff isn't quite as fun as if we don't have some of that what we might call negative or less than awesome experiences. So I don't know what your thoughts are about the whole relativity thing, but I think it's interesting that we appreciate the good when we also notice the not so good.
I think that's certainly true. I would agree with you. When you look around the world today, I don't know, did you get a chance to see my TEDx talk, or?
I did not.
Okay. One of the things that's happening in the world today is that we have created over time a situation where many scientists, and a growing number, are saying that we're entering the 6th mass extinction event.
Okay.
The last one, which was 66 million years ago, killed off about 75% of all life on Earth. And we're unfortunately in the process, with many of the things that we're doing, of destroying the biosphere, which is essentially the foundation of, we're part of the biosphere, but we seem to act as if we are the masters of, the universe, and aren't really paying attention to how we're treating the earth that sustains us, the natural world. So you have children, right?
I do.
What are their ages?
I have a 22-year-old and a 10-year-old. They have different mothers, and so I've got an older one and a younger one.
So, as my parents said to me when I was a kid, we have hostages to fate, which was us, that they were very committed to doing things to improve the world at the time that we were growing up, and they were young and active and so forth. And I wonder if you have thoughts about these kinds of things regarding, say, the future and how that's going to look for your children. Does that cross your mind at all?
It does sometimes. I tell you, I'm really good at what I do in my business with marketing, and so oftentimes my focus is just there, and I'm enjoying the ride. But yeah, I do like the idea of making this world better for my children and their children, their children's children. Yeah, and so technology is kind of a two-sided coin. Sometimes it's really exciting what we can do with technology, and other times it does seem to cost us in areas like the environment, or maybe pulling people away from nature and they're staring at screens, things like this. So yeah, at this point, I'm just sort of looking around saying, wow, that's interesting. I wonder how that's going to affect the future. But yeah, inside my own little world with my family, I try to set a good example for my kids, try to support them, be there for them, give them what they need so that they can experience and have the best life that they're here to enjoy.
So in a sense, you do have a sense of wanting to make things better so that your children can have a better life, and their children, and so forth. So it would seem to me that it's an interesting area. I think that a lot of people are in your very same situation, where their focus has been on the work that they're specifically doing, taking care of family, taking care of the living situation, and that there's not a whole lot of attention given to these larger issues, in part because people think we can't do anything about them.
Yes.
And as I see it, the truth is that if enough of us get together and say, we can do better, and we begin to look at how we can do that, that is going to make a big difference in terms of the future. One little factoid is that in the last 5,000 years, we've cut down almost half the trees on Earth.
Wow.
And, when you look at the current conversations about climate change, surely cutting down, I think it's 46%, but it may be a little higher now, because this was 4 years ago that I mentioned that. That was 4 years ago, that surely that's going to have a major impact on the biosphere. And that this is something we have a project here in Ecuador for growing the tree that's called something called Polonia, called the tree that will save the world here in South America.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, I noticed that you moved to Puerto Rico in the time that I've been following you. You didn't used to live in Puerto Rico. What was the nature of that shift? What caused that?
Sure. So, what got my attention is that as a United States citizen, there are actually tax incentives to do business in Puerto Rico. They call it exporting services. So if I have clients all over the world and I bring money into Puerto Rico, that helps the island. It helps the economy. It can create jobs. And so there are tax incentives for moving here. So that's what got my attention. We actually moved here without even visiting. We decided just to go for it. We sold our home in Colorado Springs, most of our possessions, and we moved to Puerto Rico, and we absolutely love it here. The people are wonderful. It's got its own ecosystem. So we've got a rainforest and areas that are like deserts and coastline. And we just absolutely love it here.
How long have you been there?
A little over 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how, so that was, are you also learning Spanish then? Is that?
Yeah, my wife is doing an awesome job learning Spanish, and I've got another close friend who's Puerto Rican and speaks very fluent Spanish, of course. And so I usually rely on them when I need something critical to be understood. If I'm by myself at the store, I can usually make myself understood, or there's always Google Translate if I need to rely on some technology. So I'm picking up a little bit of it, but I am nowhere near fluent.
How about your children?
Same thing. They pick up some of it. My wife is really the only one who's focused on it. Almost every day she's taking Spanish lessons, and she tries to talk in Spanish whenever possible, and listens in on conversations when she's in a group. So she's doing amazing. She's German, and she speaks German and Russian and Italian and English.
Oh, wow.
So picking up Spanish, she seems to have a real knack for foreign
Sounds like
languages.
she's got a knack for languages. I majored in Russian in college because it was a time of the Cold War, and I wanted to make a difference there. So, wow, interesting that she also speaks Russian.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Rob, is there a message you would like to give to the world that about just something that will inspire people and kind of encourage them to think about the possibility that we can, in coming together, we can actually make a great leap forward toward making the world a much happier place, a more peaceful place, a place where we get to fulfill our capabilities more, and where we get along, we play nicely in the sandbox. In other words, how we can create heaven on earth. I don't see heaven on earth ending all problems. I just see it as much more fun to solve those problems.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a few thoughts. One of them I actually hadn't prepared, but the way that you phrased it just now sort of reminded me of it. And this is a very left brain, male energy, analytical suggestion, but the 80-20 rule, sometimes called the Pareto principle, means there are little things we can do that can make a big difference. So when you plant some of those trees in Ecuador, the trees that are possibly going to help save the world, you could plant any kind of tree, but you chose the right tree to focus on. And so, we can ask ourselves, what are the little things that we can do that can make a big difference? The things that don't take much of our time, don't take much of our money, but have a huge impact. And that could be having a conversation with someone who has way more reach than we do, who can reach a bigger audience, an influencer, for example. Or it can mean, it can mean so many things, but it could mean writing a book, which does take some time, but once it's out there on Amazon and perhaps gets popular, having a million readers of your book could get that message out. So in other words, asking ourselves, what are the little things we can do to make a big difference? That might be one idea. Another one is, at least in our own lives, what I like to do sometimes with clients is ask them to skip ahead to when they are on their deathbed and just looking back and asking themselves, what am I glad that I've done, and what do I wish I had done differently? Most of us wouldn't wish we had worked more. We'd wish we had spent time with the people who matter, or perhaps made the future better for our children. And so if we can kind of skip to the end of our lives and look backwards, then we at least have an idea of some of the things we might want to focus on and might want to do before we're there at the end of our lives. So sort of, I think Stephen Covey calls it working with the end in mind. So thinking to the end of our time here, and then how we want to leave this earth, maybe looking backwards as to what can we do to be in that position where we're smiling when we leave the earth, as opposed to fretting.
Well, just to jump in here, because I do want to hear, because it looks as if you maybe have a couple more notes, but I want to comment here that I retired when I was 25 to only do what made absolute sense to me for the rest of my life. It was a curious situation that led to that. And right now I'm working on my memoirs because it's pretty interesting life when you do that. And one of the questions that I used to guide myself was, imagine that I'm standing at the end of my life and I'm feeling completely at peace. I'm about to go on to the next great adventure. And I feel so at peace, so good. I did it. I did everything I came here to this earth to do. I became the person I wanted to become. What does it look like? And to keep answering that question over the years, because I'm turning 78 this year, it's been an amazing journey, because that's a guidance system, as you indicated earlier. It gives you a guidance, which is a kind of a long look at your life. So that's wonderful. I feel totally in resonance with you. What else would you want to communicate to people out there for this?
Sure. And by the way, I did notice your energy go up when I mentioned that looking at the end of our lives. So yeah, so that's a signal to pay attention to, right? So, yeah, just the other thing, I've been teaching some goal setting workshops lately, helping, my own clients, coaches set goals. And one thing that really occurred to me, some people teach goal setting around like, make a list of 100 goals and you'll be surprised which ones you hit. And I tried that years ago, and I think some of them happened, but that was a lot to keep in my short-term memory. And what I realized is that, no matter what your goals are, if your goals are making the world a better place or raising bright, responsible social citizens, like whatever your goals are, I think having just a handful of them can really make it easy to have your goals in your short-term memory at all times, which allows you to make decisions very easily. So I've got like 5 goals in my life. A lot of them are business-centered goals, but it helps me make decisions. If someone says, hey, Rob, can you spend time doing this? Or, hey, Rob, would you like to invest in that? I don't have to go back to a list of 100 goals and say, well, does it help me reach any of these? It's just 5 simple goals. One's a relationship goal. I have lots of people in my life, but it's a general relationship goal. Wait, I
want to unpack this. What is the relationship goal that you have?
Sure. So it's focused on my immediate family, wife and 2 kids. It's that they feel loved. And that might be hard to measure analytically, but I have a pretty good idea when they're feeling loved. And so if my son asks me, hey, Dad, would you play a game with me? And I'm also thinking about, hey, I've got to do this marketing in my business. I can ask myself, because I've got a business goal too. It seems like no matter what I do, if I work on my business, I'm going to work toward one of those goals. But if I spend time with my son playing a game, that's another goal. So it helps me. But if somebody else says, hey, do you want to go to the beach today? The waves look really great. I can say, well, my son wants me to spend time with him, and that's going to help him feel loved. Or I could be working on my business. Maybe I should, set aside some different time to go to the beach. So
take my son along.
It's true. Yeah, you can get creative that way. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And in this example, I know he would not want to do that. So, but yeah, you're right. You're right. But you can get creative. Absolutely. Absolutely. So my relationship goal is really that my immediate family, that they feel loved.
Okay. And then the business goal is, what are the 5 goals that you've got?
Sure. So, I'll list them and then I'll say what they are. So I have a net worth goal, thinking toward retirement. I've got a revenue goal, how much revenue I would like to generate in my own business this year. I've got an audience goal, the number of people I'd like to attract into my world to be able to help. And then I've got that relationship goal I've already mentioned. And then I also have a health goal. So I've got 5 different goals, but it really makes making decisions easier. So I'm happy to share my goals.
Please, yeah.
Sure. So when I start talking numbers and money, we're all at different stages. So my net worth goal might be different than every single person watching this. But yeah, so my net worth goal is a net worth of $2 million. I feel like if I die suddenly or something happens and I can no longer bring in money, with that amount of money, it can take care of my wife and my kids for, hopefully for a long, long time. So that's my net worth goal. My revenue goal is to do $1 million in business this year. I didn't do it last year, but I did do it the year before. So I know it's possible. So I've got that as a fun revenue goal for myself. Then the audience goal is I'd like to build my email list up to 100,000 people. I'm at about 22,000 right now. So don't know if I'll hit it, but when I'm making a decision and I'm thinking, is this going to bring me a lot closer using that 80-20 rule to my audience size goal or not? I can ask myself, is it worth really doing this little thing that might add 10 subscribers to my email list, or should I think outside the box and find a way to have more impact? So that's the audience goal. The relationship goal is family feels loved. And then the health goal is a weight goal. I'd like to get to 180 pounds. So those are my 5 goals, but it really helps me make decisions in my life.
That's great. That's a very neat formula for making decisions and figuring out how to weed out or include activities on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis. So that's great. I'm going to implement that one myself because I think I kind of do it, but I haven't really articulated it as cleanly as you have. So that's really very, very helpful.
Sure.
Is there any other message that you would like to communicate to people out there in the world who, I mean, I think what you've just shared now is something that we all can use. And so is there any other message that you would like to share that you think could have a really positive impact on people watching this program?
Sure. Yeah, there is one thing. Again, I hadn't prepared this one ahead of time, but it occurred to me the way you asked the question so well. But yeah, something that I teach in a business sense actually works in all areas of life. So in a business sense, what I teach is how to get a client to say yes to a coach for hiring them or buying something from them. But it really works to help people say yes to anything we're asking of them. And it's a simple formula. It goes a little bit deeper, and I'll go a little bit deeper with it. But the formula is what causes people to say yes is trust and an irresistible offer. So in other words, they need to trust us as a person. They need to trust that we're honorable, that we're not going to take advantage of them saying yes and not deliver what we're offering to do. So they need to trust us as a person. And at least in the business sense, with a coach selling their services, they need to trust that that coach is the expert who can get them the results they want. If you hire me to help you lose weight, but you don't believe I really know how to do it, like, yeah, you wouldn't hire me. You think, well, I trust him as a person. He seems to believe he can help with weight loss, but I mean, I don't trust that he knows how to do it. And so people need to trust that we're good people.
I don't trust that he can help me do it.
There we go. Yeah. So they need to trust us as a person, like we're honorable, we're trustworthy, but they also need to trust that we really can deliver on what the person is wanting us to do. So So trust, and then the irresistible offer also has two parts, and one of them escaped me for a long time, for years. And that piece of the irresistible offer is that people need to understand what we're asking them to say yes to. They need to understand the inputs and the outputs. What is the time, energy, and money we're asking them to invest with us? And again, this can be asking someone for a favor, like, how much time are you asking me to help you move? Or how much energy is this going to take? Is this hard work or easy work? And then, is this going to cost me any money? Do I have to fill up my car with gas and come over to your place? Like, how much time, energy, and money are people putting into what we're asking? And then what is the very likely output or outcome that they're going to get? So helping like make the offer understood easily and simple, the inputs and outputs, that's huge. It's huge in marketing, but it's huge with helping someone say yes to us. The other piece of the irresistible offer is that it needs to be a no-brainer in terms of the value we provide with our offer compared to the relatively small cost. And in the case of asking someone to help us move, maybe it doesn't take very much of their time or money or energy to help us move, but that relationship value goes way up. Maybe they feel like that takes the relationship to a higher level, or now they can ask me a favor since I helped them move. But really that bottom line of trust in the irresistible offer, if we understand that, we can really set things up correctly to help people say yes to what we're asking.
So that sounds absolutely fascinating in terms of setting up the invitation for people to come play this game of creating heaven on earth.
Yeah.
So help me brainstorm that. I mean, you're good. How might we create an irresistible offer for people to come play this game now that is going to be a really, really interesting game with incredible people who are doing incredible things, kind of like you and the clients that you serve, who are already doing amazing work? How would you envision this as the irresistible offer and the difference it makes a difference in having them say yes and jumping in with both feet, both wings?
Right. Yeah. And again, that formula can really be helpful here. So trust-wise, they need to trust you as a person, first of all. And that's pretty easy to do. But if you weren't on camera, and or maybe we couldn't even hear your voice, maybe it was just words on a web page, like we might not trust. seeing you smile and hearing your voice and seeing who you are, like that builds a lot of trust. So do testimonials and other things, but they need to trust that you're an honorable person. And so it seems like that's a pretty easy one for you, but it's something to check off the list. Okay, so trusting you as a person, and then trusting you as the expert who can help people get the results that they want. And so, like, do you have the way to help show people what they can do to make heaven on earth? If they don't believe you can do that, or you can help them do that, like you pointed out, then it's going to be harder for them to say yes to that. So making it very, very clear to them and their belief systems that they can trust that if they follow along and play along with you, that it's going to really make a big difference. You know what you're doing. You're someone they can follow. So whatever you can do to maximize that trust, that's the first part of the equation. The second part of the equation is the irresistible offer, and it totally applies here. Understanding the offer. Okay, well, Nori, if I'm going to say yes to playing along with you, I need to understand the inputs. How much time is this going to take? How much energy is this going to take? And is it going to cost me any money? How much money is it going to take? What are the inputs? And then what's the very likely result I'm going to see from this? And ultimately, it's feeling good. But am I going to see like a reduction in carbon emissions? Am I going to see more trees? Like what's the very likely outcome I will see from my efforts if I say yes and follow along? So the inputs and outputs.
I would like to add here, though, in terms of inputs and outputs, is how does this help me meet my 5 goals that I've said that I'm committed to meeting? Having more love in my family, having a successful year where I make at least $1 million, meeting my goal, and so forth. So can you look at that for a moment and see, what would be the irresistible offer that would have you say yes, because you can see that your kids are going to be ignited with the fact that you're jumping in and you're playing a role in helping to create heaven on earth, and in somehow engaging them perhaps in the process too?
Right. So, okay. So it's kind of 2 different things. One is like, if you're asking me to help you kind of frame this for the people you come across to, what I'm suggesting is making that offer really easy to understand with the inputs and outputs. If we add the goals to it, that makes the offer more complicated for others. Like you and I have already talked about my goals.
I'm just playing with you here in terms of our interaction, because I think you're pointing towards something really, really important, that each person is going to be carrying out this sort of set of calculations in their mind. Is this going to be fun for me to do? Is this going to be a positive net that's worth my getting involved in this, et cetera, et cetera? So they're very personal things that people are assessing when they're thinking about getting involved, because, rather than just sort of what generically is going to work for all people. I think that's an important question, but I was just sort of playing with you here to see how you might relate it to your own life, your own 5 goals that you've articulated so clearly, which is, I think, amazing.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you may have noticed that in my 5 goals, there's nothing about making the world a better place. Yes, I want my family to feel loved, and I want to improve lose some weight, and I want to do well in business, but there's not really a lot directly tied to making the world a better place, meaning environment stuff or heaven on earth. And so I might not be your ideal prospect or client. And that's why in our marketing, it's important to get in front of the people where making heaven on earth or improving the environment like that is a high priority to them. So like what I'm saying is I'm probably not your ideal client to join you in this mission. I appreciate the mission, absolutely. And it makes me smile if I know that I've helped you with your mission, because in that way I've made a difference also, but it's not one of my top 5. So what I'm suggesting is that it's good to get in front of people where it is one of their top 5 that's congruent. So we could look at my goals, but I'm not sure it's super congruent or easy to connect those dots to accomplish my goals. Now, if you said, Rob, I'd love to give you $1 million in revenue if you can make this difference in the world, like this change in the environment, I might start scratching my head saying, oh, wow, that meets one of my goals. but it's probably not either realistic or the simplest way to get there, the 80-20 of it, right?
Right.
So
So
I don't know if that.
yeah, I totally get it. And that's a really interesting challenge for us, because we think, for example, that we can help you, in terms of we're going to be reaching over 1.5 million people in this broadcast. So, we offer we have some interesting collaborative possibilities that we offer, where people can and are making money from collaborating with us, substantial amounts, and building their mailing list. So, and also when they realize that they can continue doing what they love to do, and they don't have to be going off, and don't have to spend a lot of time, but they're basically just helping us inform people, then it gets, it begins to connect in with, the 5 goals that you set yourself, which is, we can explore this off screen, but I just think that what you're raising is a super interesting point of how do we connect that set of dots so that people can personally feel how they are going to come to a greater advantage by playing this game. Greater health and aliveness. Their children will be inspired by daddy doing this, or, whatever it happens to be, their ways. I'll send you a little story. In fact, we'll post it on the virtual summit. There's a story that I wrote up from when I entered Peace Corps training. It's called "Do Flies Have Feet?" And I'm not going to go into it here, but I will send you the story, and you can see what I mean by the way of connecting dots that absolutely immediately changes the direction of activity.
Wow. So, okay. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Rob, is there anything else we can add here? I think what you're doing is amazing. You're obviously helping people who are great coaches and trainers expand greatly their reach. And so you're having this amazing secondary impact, as well as your own impact in your own coaching. Is there anything else that you would like to share in terms of what together we might do to create heaven on earth, to create a much happier, healthier world for us all to live in?
Yeah, at least when you ask the question that way, I think of things, and then I think we've covered those ways. So it feels to me like we've done a pretty thorough job. Okay. Things like the 80-20 rule, what gives you energy, what takes it away, having a short number of goals to help you make decisions easily. Hopefully, and I realize you have other speakers too, so hopefully I'm contributing to part Absolutely. Of the solution here, and people will get other ideas from your other great speakers.
Yeah, you've got some wonderful process suggestions, and I really thank you. This has been quite lovely, and thank you so much for contributing to creating heaven on earth.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here, Nori.
Yeah, and I look forward to working together.
Awesome. I'm excited too.
Okay.
Thanks, Nori.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay. All right. Bye. Bye, everybody.